All right, so it's the video that everyone wants to see, the battle of the two best smartphones that you can grab right now, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which I've got to use for the past couple weeks, against the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Obviously, this has been out longer, but come the end of this year, around Christmas, the holidays, these will be the two best phones that you can get right now. So we'll start off with the thing off the bat. Pricing, they're honestly around the same, around that $12-ish $100 mark. Rarely do iPhones ever go on sale. You'll probably see that price from now till the next one comes out. Whereas the S24 Ultra already just a couple months later, these go on sale all the time. For example, the 512 gig variant is the same price right now as the 256, which is still the base storage option. So this guy always goes on sale. So for value, we'll give one over to Samsung. In terms of the overall design, if you looked at the past couple generations of either phone, these have followed along in the same footsteps. There's nothing new revolutionary. They follow the same DNA. They have their own iconic, I guess, like look to them. Both obviously made of titanium, like that industry standard new material that most smartphones use. If you're being really nitpicky, the iPhone uses grade 5 titanium, whereas the Samsung uses grade 2. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. I guess if your biggest decision was like colorway, Desert Titanium is the new option for the iPhone, whereas the S24 Ultra has the natural finish. You'll probably rock a case on them most of the time, and of course the glass backings on both. When you switch them around, once again, both phones are pretty much all displays. The Samsung actually has a bit of a taller and thinner form factor, whereas the iPhone is a bit boxier. Both definitely require two-handed use, but we have 6.9 inches on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. You can actually see the bezels have shrunken down, and they are probably some of the thinnest that we've seen on any smartphone. Obviously, they're thin on the Samsung, just maybe not as thin. If you're super OCD, you might care about that. I don't think most people will, but the biggest difference here is the little cutout for the front-facing camera. Obviously, on the Samsung, just a small little circle for the camera itself, whereas on the iPhone, you have a dynamic island, that little pill-shaped cutout, depending on what app you're rocking. It's not the first time we've seen dynamic island, but yeah, that kind of changes with what app that you're using. Both displays are honestly best in class. I typically rave a lot about Samsung phones, but the iPhone, just because of those smaller bezels, the screen looks like really good. I'm not someone that loves to peep nit brightness. We can have the actual ones on screen, but both super usable even on bright sunny days. Whether you're watching content, playing games, being productive, scrolling the endless loops of social media, maybe the only slight difference here is the aspect ratio, but flipping them around, the key difference on the back, other than the camera modules, which we'll talk about in a second, since I've switched to iPhone, it's something that I've missed from my S24 Ultra. It's obviously MagSafe. So that's those little magnets at the back, mostly for accessories. Obviously, both still charge like wirelessly at 25 watts, but having MagSafe is a pretty big advantage if you're into the accessory games. For example, I've got this wireless charger here from ESR that has this little kickstand, so I can use the phone. It doesn't like wiggle or come off, whereas it still technically charges the Samsung, but because there is no magnet, that kind of just slides off of the back. But this is super slim. It's only 15.5 millimeters, which is 38% slimmer than its competitors. It has a cooling AI algorithm thanks to NTC sensors, which keeps it below 99.1 degrees, which is optimal for charging. It does 15 watts fast MagSafe charging, so up to 84% in 2 hours, 25 minutes, compared to a 7.5 kilowatt power bank that only charges to 77% in 3 hours. And here's another accessory I use for a charging stand at night. I just stick my iPhone on it. Since the dock is floating, it kind of gives it like a nice visual. And if you are someone that is invested into the Apple ecosystem, which is, you know, one of the main reasons to be on Team iPhone, you can charge your extra accessories, your Apple Watch, like your AirPods, etc. So I'll leave these accessories linked down below. I kind of use ESR for all my accessory game, but I'd say that's the biggest difference, like physically, between the devices. And I will say the iPhone, by far, this has the best battery on a smartphone, like period. I know that Apple typically doesn't release like their milliamp hour. We've done like full teardowns of this, or other people have. This phone is godly in terms of battery life. So someone being like a power user, I'm on my phone all the day. I typically have to juice up my Samsung by end of night. That goes for like any smartphone. This can last me sometimes even into the second day of usage. You can see my daily average, which is around 6.5 hours. And once again, I've seen full tests of these. The iPhone iPhone will last like 17 hours on, whereas the S24 Ultra lasts like 2 hours less, which is a pretty big difference. I will say the Samsung can still do like reverse charging. So say you're kind of dying on a device, you can use your Samsung as like a wireless power bank. So that's its saving grace. But battery wise, I gotta give this one easily to the iPhone. The last physical difference between both devices is the Samsung comes with its included S Pen, as it's replaced the Note series now for the past couple years. If you're like a big stylus person, it's definitely a feature to think about. I'm someone that typically uses an S Pen maybe when I get the phone for the first time, but in the past like couple months, it's just kind of sat in its dock. Maybe the biggest reason to use it is like when I sign contracts, when I sign like documents. But let me know if you're an S Pen user, if you're like an artist. I've seen like a lot of leaks of mini Apple Pencils that, you know, it would be kind of cool once again with that MagSafe to kind of like click it onto the back of the iPhone. If you are someone that like uses that like in a little case combo, I think that would be cool. But S Pen wise or lack of Apple Pencil for the iPhone, something to consider, but I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. Moving on to, I would say, the most important out of the bunch. So this comes to like camera comparisons. And I know these can be like super subjective. Obviously, if you look at just specs, the Samsung has, I guess, a technically superior camera in terms of like megapixel count, in terms of zoom. We've got a 200 megapixel like main sensor. It has 10 times optical zoom and you can zoom digitally up to 100 times. Whereas even on the 16 Pro Max, it's the 48 megapixel fusion camera. You can zoom up to 5 times optically and obviously more digitally. But that's sometimes where numbers kind of end in terms of like specs. I'm not trying to be super biased here, but I've taken a bunch of sample shots. I've actually given a bit of a house update. If you've been following along in the channel, you should know that I'm building a house, which is mega delayed into 3.5, close to 4 years of building. And I've also snapshots of Link, my doggo, just around town. I will let you guys be the judge. Let me know. All are straight out of body with zero editing. I'll leave it up to you in the comments to decide. So video wise, we now have the new option of 4K 60 over on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. This is where I'll put my foot down and say the video off iPhone just looks silky smooth. In terms of like video footage, I think iPhones are like king of the crop. You also have the options of ProRes log, and I guess one of the big features of the iPhone this year is the addition of camera control. So that's that little button on the side that quickly launches the camera. Is it a game changer? And maybe I'm so ingrained on the traditional way to, you know, launch a camera app. It's just by pressing like the app button, but I honestly don't use it too much. I know that, you know, I can use it to zoom, I can use it to change my picture profiles. Was it one of the biggest announcements at the keynote? It was, which kind of just shows how few new features are coming to the new iPhone. I still think you'll get a great camera experience even if you never use this button, to be honest. But in terms of the internals, so obviously both are flagships. You know, once again, I won't deny everything that you throw at these devices, even if you're getting them now, even though the Samsung is a bit older, they are going to absolutely crush. We've got to the point where smartphones, even the past like 2, 3, 4 years, unless you've got devices side by side, you won't be able to really tell the difference. We've got the A18 Pro in the iPhone and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in the Samsung. Multitasking, gaming, scrolling through social, just whatever you throw at either device, once again, industry leading, the best of the best. Funnily enough, the second big focus of the new iPhone is Apple Intelligence, which this phone doesn't even ship with yet. So you'll have to wait till later in the fall for guys in the US. From Canada myself, we have to wait till December. So they're shipping a brand new phone that doesn't have like half of the features. Will you use AI every single day? Definitely not. You might use it from time to time, but for right now we have Siri, still currently the worst of the bunch, right Siri? Okay, I told Apple Podcasts that you don't like this song. Samsung has good old Google Assistant, which I still think leads the pack. And if you are like a real number person, you'll also see that the Samsung has like 12 gigs of RAM versus 8 gigs on the iPhone. But once again, you're now comparing iOS versus obviously Android, which is like its own pickle or question, which I guess we'll kind of end off with. If you are Team Apple, you're stuck into the ecosystem, you've bought in, you've invested in your MacBook, you've got an iPad, an Apple Watch, AirPods. they all work so well together. Things like AirDrop, iMessage, those are really hard to escape. If you're not tied to that particular ecosystem, if you have like a Windows machine, if you've got like a Windows PC for like say work, the Samsung on its own works really well. But where Apple products really shine is when you use them all together. So maybe that will be like the way that I end off the vid. If you're already an iPhone user, if you have other Apple devices, stick with your iPhone. It's tried, it's trusted, you know what you're gonna get. It has the best battery. Like, I would say that's the best feature of this new iPhone. The battery lasts longer. Camera's great, video quality is, best in class. Will you use camera control? Probably not. Still waiting around for Apple Intelligence. Will you get disappointed if you get the Samsung phone? No. Still probably one of the better Android devices. Like, it's between this and the Pixel 9 Pro like XL. I think you can take your pick, but I'll let the fanboys down below debate which device would you get. Let me know if I forgot anything, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.